How dare you slap
How
my
dare
wife?
you slap my
The
wife?
voice cut through the busy Atlanta street like a blade through silk, low and controlled, but carrying enough menace to freeze every person within earshot. The evening crowd that it had been filming and whispering suddenly went silent. Phones still raised, but fingers no longer moving. The man who had just shoved Ifeoma turned slowly, his smirk fading as he registered the figure standing 10 feet away. The Korean Mafia Boss stood beside a black Mercedes, his tailored suit catching the glow of neon signs, his face carved from stone. He wasn't tall, but he commanded the space around him like gravity itself bent to his will. Ifeoma pressed her hand against her pregnant belly, tears streaming down her dark cheeks as she looked up at her husband. The shame of being humiliated in public burned through her, but now something else flickered in her chest. Hope, fear, relief, all tangled together. The American woman who had orchestrated this public spectacle, the ex who had mocked and pushed Ifeoma moments ago, suddenly found her voice catching in her throat. She had been so confident seconds ago, so sure of her victory. Now she stood frozen, her blonde hair whipping in the evening breeze as she realized she had miscalculated terribly. "I said," the boss repeated, taking one measured step forward, "how dare you put your hands on my wife?" His English was perfect, barely touched by an accent, which somehow made his words more terrifying. This wasn't rage. This was something colder, more calculated, more dangerous. The man beside the ex finally found his courage, puffing out his chest. "Look, I don't know who you think you are, but this is between me and her. She was harassing my girl, and I handled it. So why don't you mind your business and keep moving?" Hello, friends. Welcome back. Before we dive into today's story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us create more powerful stories every week. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? Drop your country flag. Now, let's get into the story. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Someone in the back muttered a warning, but the man didn't hear it, too caught up in his own bravado. The boss tilted his head slightly, studying the man like he was an interesting insect. "Your girl," he repeated softly. "The woman who just assaulted my pregnant wife in the street. That girl?" The ex grabbed the man's arm, her face pale now. "Marcus, maybe we should go." But Marcus shook her off, too angry and embarrassed to back down in front of all these cameras. "Yeah, that's right. Your wife was stalking us, saying crazy things, and I protected my woman. That's what real men do." Ifeoma's voice came out quiet but steady despite her tears. "I only asked why you wouldn't help with the baby, our baby, and she called me names and pushed me." "Lies," the ex spat, but her voice lacked conviction now, her eyes darting between Ifeoma and the approaching boss. The boss took another step, and this time two more figures emerged from the Mercedes behind him. They didn't draw weapons or make threats. They simply stood there, silent and watchful, their presence adding weight to the moment. "I'm going to give you one chance," the boss said, directing his words to Marcus, but keeping his eyes on the ex. "One chance to apologize to my wife, to acknowledge what you've done, and to walk away from this situation." Marcus laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Or what? You gonna beat me up in front of all these witnesses? Go ahead, tough guy. I'll have you arrested so fast." The boss smiled then, and it was the most unsettling thing anyone in that crowd had ever seen. It never reached his eyes. "I'm not going to touch you," he said quietly. "I don't need to." He pulled out his phone with deliberate slowness, scrolled through his contacts, and made a call. The street was so quiet now that people in the front of the crowd could hear the ringing through the speaker. "Yes," the boss said when someone answered. "I need you to look into someone for me. Marcus?" He paused, looking at the man expectantly. "I'm not telling you anything," Marcus shot back, but his confidence was cracking. The boss shrugged and spoke into the phone again. "Marcus, approximately 6 feet tall, African-American, early 30s, currently standing at the corner of Peachtree and 5th Street." He rattled off the description like he was ordering coffee. "He just assaulted my wife. I'd like to know everything about him within the hour. Employment, residence, family, friends, debts, everything." He ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. The ex was pulling on Marcus's arm now, her voice rising with panic. "We need to go. Now. Marcus, please." What, you think I'm scared of some background check? Marcus tried to sound brave, but his eyes betrayed him, darting to the men by the car, to the crowd, to Ifeoma, and back to the boss. You should be, someone in the crowd muttered. The boss turned his attention to Ifeoma, his entire demeanor shifting. He crossed to her in 3 strides, his hand gentle as he touched her face, examining where she'd been struck. Are you hurt? Is the baby okay? Ifeoma nodded, fresh tears spilling over. I'm okay. I'm sorry. I just wanted to talk to him about the baby, about support, and she got so angry. You have nothing to apologize for, her husband said firmly. He turned to address the crowd, his voice carrying authority. My wife is 6 months pregnant. She approached her child's father to discuss support and was attacked for it. You all saw it. You all recorded it. Heads nodded throughout the crowd. The narrative was being rewritten in real time, and the ex realized with horror that public opinion had turned against her completely. That's not what happened, she protested weakly. Then perhaps we should review the footage, the boss suggested, his tone pleasant but his eyes hard. I'm certain these kind people would be happy to share what they recorded. Every angle, every word, every moment. Marcus grabbed the ex's hand. We're leaving. No. The single word from the boss stopped them both. You'll leave when I say you can leave. Right now, you owe my wife an apology. I'm not apologizing for protecting my girlfriend, Marcus insisted, but his voice shook. The boss's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, read something, and his smile returned, sharp and cold. Marcus Henderson works at Premier Auto Sales on Northside Drive, lives in apartment 2B at the Riverside Complex. Your mother's name is Patricia, lives in Macon. Your sister just started at Georgia State. You owe $17,000 in credit card debt, and you're 3 months behind on your car payment. The color drained from Marcus's face. The crowd gasped. The ex looked at Marcus with new horror, realizing exactly how deep they'd fallen into something they didn't understand. How did you? Marcus started. That took 6 minutes, the boss interrupted. Imagine what I'll know in an hour, in a day, in a week. He paused, letting that sink in. Now imagine what I could do with that information. Ifeoma touched her husband's arm gently. Please, I just want to go home. He covered her hand with his, still watching Marcus and the ex. Of course, but first, these two are going to apologize. I'm sorry, the ex blurted out immediately, all her earlier arrogance gone. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have pushed you. I shouldn't have said those things. Please, I'm really sorry. Marcus stood frozen, pride and fear warring across his face. The boss waited, patient as stone. Finally, Marcus's shoulders slumped. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Louder, the boss commanded, so everyone can hear you, so every camera can record it. I'm sorry, Marcus said, his voice carrying across the silent street. I was wrong to push you. I'm sorry. The boss studied them for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Good. Now leave. And Marcus? He waited until the man met his eyes. If you ever come near my wife again, if you ever speak to her, if you even think about her, I'll make sure everyone you know, everyone you work with, and everyone who matters to you learns exactly what kind of man you really are. Do we understand each other? Marcus nodded frantically and turned to leave, pulling the ex with him. Wait, the boss called out, and they froze. There's the matter of the baby. Marcus turned back slowly, confusion and fear mixing on his face. What baby? The boss gestured to Ifeoma's swollen stomach. The baby my wife mentioned, the one she says is yours. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, and frankly don't care. But she came to you seeking support, and you responded with violence. That's not my problem anymore, Marcus said, trying to inject some defiance back into his voice. Actually, it is. The boss pulled out his phone again. Because now I have your information, and my lawyers will be very interested in pursuing this matter. Child support, medical expenses, emotional distress. My wife will have the best legal representation available, and they will pursue every dollar you owe. You wanted to avoid dealing with this quietly and respectfully? Fine, we'll do it publicly and officially. The ex made a strangled sound. You can't do this. I can do whatever I want, the boss replied simply. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm simply ensuring my wife gets what she deserves, what the law entitles her to. You had a chance to handle this like adults. You chose violence instead. He turned away from them dismissively, wrapping his arm around Ifeoma's shoulders. Come on, let's get you home. The crowd parted for them like water, phones still recording as the boss guided his wife toward the Mercedes. One of the men who had emerged from the car opened the back door, and the boss helped Ifeoma inside with gentle care. Such a stark contrast to his earlier coldness that several people in the crowd whispered about it. Before getting in himself, the boss turned back one last time. This street has cameras. Every shop, every building. The footage will be collected and preserved. If anything happens to my wife, if she has any trouble at all, I'll know where to look first. Keep that in mind. Then he was inside the car, the door closing with a heavy, final sound. The Mercedes pulled away from the curb smoothly, leaving Marcus and the ex standing in the street, surrounded by dozens of witnesses and countless recording phones. Someone in the crowd started clapping slowly, and soon others joined in, the applause building as people expressed their approval of how the situation had been handled. Marcus and the ex fled, pushing through the crowd as comments and whispers followed them. Inside the Mercedes, Ifeoma leaned against her husband's shoulder, exhaustion washing over her. "You didn't have to do all that." "Yes, I did," he replied firmly, his hand resting protectively over hers on her belly. "No one touches you. No one disrespects you, ever." The Mercedes glided through Atlanta traffic, the city lights painting patterns across the dark leather interior. Ifeoma sat in silence, processing everything that had just happened, while her husband made quiet phone calls in Korean, his tone businesslike and efficient. Hey, if you're still watching, you're definitely enjoying this story, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments what country you're representing. I love seeing our global family come together. When he finally ended the last call, she found her voice. "What happens now?" "Now we make sure you're safe," he replied, "and we make sure they understand that actions have consequences. I don't want you to hurt them." He looked at her sharply. "I'm not going to hurt them physically. That's not how this works. But they embarrassed you. They put their hands on you while you're carrying a child, and they did it publicly. That can't go unanswered." "Because of your reputation?" "Because of you," he corrected. "Because you deserve better than to be treated that way. Because the world needs to know that you're under my protection and what that means." Ifeoma shifted in her seat, uncomfortable with the intensity of his devotion. Their marriage was complicated, built on arrangement rather than romance, though genuine care had grown between them over the past year. She'd been honest with him from the start about the pregnancy, about Marcus, about everything. Most men would have walked away. He'd proposed instead. "I'm still trying to understand why you married me," she admitted quietly. "A pregnant woman with another man's child. You could have anyone." He was quiet for a long moment, watching the city pass by through the tinted windows. "My family wanted me to marry someone from Korea, someone who would fit into their world and their expectations. But I've lived in America for 15 years. I built my own life here, my own business. I wanted something real, not another arrangement." "But this is an arrangement," Ifeoma pointed out. "It started that way," he agreed. "You needed security and protection. You were alone and pregnant, abandoned by someone who should have stood by you. I needed to get my family off my back about marriage and heirs. It made sense on paper. And now?" He turned to look at her, his expression unguarded in a way it rarely was. "Now I care about you. Now the thought of someone hurting you makes me angrier than any business deal gone wrong ever could. Now when I think about the future, I see us raising this child together, building something that matters more than money or power." The car pulled up to their building, a luxury high-rise in Buckhead. The doorman hurried to open the door, and Ifeoma's husband helped her out carefully, his hands supporting her elbow as they walked into the lobby. Their apartment was on the top floor, a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Ifeoma had been awed by it when she first moved in 3 months ago, after their quiet courthouse wedding. She still wasn't entirely used to the luxury, the space, the way everything seemed designed for comfort and beauty. "Sit," her husband instructed, guiding her to the plush couch. "I'll make tea." "You don't have to," she protested, but he was already moving toward the kitchen. "You've had a traumatic evening. Tea helps." It was something she'd told him early in their marriage, sharing stories of her mother making tea for every crisis, every celebration, every quiet moment. He'd remembered. While he was in the kitchen, Ifeoma pulled out her phone and scrolled through social media. Her heart sank as she saw it. The video of the confrontation was already everywhere, shared and reshared, viewed thousands of times in the hour since it happened. The comments were a mixed bag. Some people praised her husband's restraint and authority. Others called him controlling or dangerous. Many focused on her pregnancy, on the drama of the situation. A few were cruel, making jokes about her situation or her appearance. She felt her throat tighten as she read them. "Don't read those," her husband said, returning with 2 steaming cups. He'd seen what she was looking at. People online say terrible things because they face no consequences. It doesn't matter what they think. "It matters when they're saying it about me," Ifeoma replied, but she put the phone down and accepted the tea. "What if this affects your business? What if people see you as some kind of criminal because of how you handled things tonight?" He settled beside her, close but not touching, respecting her space. "My business associates know exactly who I am and what I do. Tonight won't change that. If anything, it reinforces what they already know. I protect what's mine, and I don't make empty threats." "What are you going to do about Marcus?" "Exactly what I said I would do. My lawyers will file for child support and medical expenses. Everything legal and above board. He'll either pay willingly or the courts will make him pay. Either way, you and the baby will be provided for." "He'll fight it," Ifeoma predicted. "He denied the baby was his tonight. He'll claim I'm lying. Then we'll request a paternity test. The court can order it. If he's the father, he pays. If he's not—" Her husband paused, choosing his words carefully. "If he's not, then we move forward as a family anyway. The child will have my name, my protection, and my support." Ifeoma felt emotion welling up in her chest again. "I don't understand you. Why would you do all this for a child that isn't yours?" "Because love isn't just biology," he replied simply. "My father taught me that. He raised me to understand that family is built through choice and commitment, not just blood. This baby will be my child because I choose to make it so." "Your family in Korea, they won't accept that," he shrugged. "My family in Korea will accept what I tell them to accept. I'm not a boy anymore, seeking their approval. I'm a grown man who built his own empire. They can voice their opinions, but the decisions are mine to make." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping tea and watching the city lights below. Ifeoma felt the baby kick, a strong flutter against her ribs, and she smiled despite the evening's trauma. "Active tonight," her husband observed, noticing her expression. "Always active after stress," she replied. "I think the baby feeds off my emotions." "Then we need to make sure you're calm and happy," he said. "No more confrontations, no more drama. From now on, everything goes through lawyers or through me. You focus on staying healthy and preparing for the birth. I can't hide away for 3 more months." "I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to be careful. Tonight proved that there are people out there who wish you harm. Marcus and his girlfriend aren't the only ones. In my world, I've made enemies. Some of them might see you as a way to get to me." This was something they'd discussed before, the potential dangers of being married to someone with his connections and influence. Ifeoma had thought she understood, but tonight had made it real in a way it hadn't been before. "Do you regret this?" she asked suddenly. "Marrying me and taking on all these complications." He set down his tea and turned to face her fully. "Never. Not for 1 second. You brought something into my life that was missing, something I didn't even know I needed. Purpose beyond business, connection beyond transactions, the possibility of a real family." "We barely know each other," Ifeoma protested weakly. "We have time to change that. Marriage is long. We'll learn each other slowly, build trust and understanding over years, not weeks. There's no rush." His phone buzzed with an incoming message. He glanced at it, his expression hardening slightly. "The information on Marcus has been fully compiled. Do you want to know what they found?" Ifeoma hesitated, then shook her head. "I don't think so. I thought I knew him, thought we had something real. Finding out I was wrong about that was painful enough. I don't need to know every detail of his life now." "Fair enough. He typed a quick response and set the phone aside. The lawyers will handle everything from here. You won't have to see him or speak to him again unless you want to. I don't want to, she said firmly. He made his choice tonight. He chose her over his own child, chose pride over responsibility. I'm done trying to make him into something he's not. Good. Her husband stood and offered his hand. Come on, you should rest. It's been a long night. He helped her up, and they walked toward the bedroom together. At the doorway, Ifeoma paused. Thank you, for tonight, for everything. I know I don't say it enough, but I'm grateful. He touched her cheek gently, a rare gesture of affection. You don't need to thank me for doing what's right. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll start planning how to move forward. As Ifeoma settled into bed, her mind wouldn't quiet. The memory of Marcus's face, the ex's panic, the crowd's reactions, all swirled through her thoughts. But above all, she kept coming back to her husband's words, his calm authority, his unwavering support. She'd entered this marriage seeking security, a safe harbor in a storm. She was beginning to realize she might have found something more valuable, a true partner. Someone who saw her worth, even when she struggled to see it herself. Across the city, Marcus paced his small apartment while the ex sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone with growing horror. It's everywhere, she kept saying. Everyone's sharing it. My family's seen it. My coworkers, everyone. So what? Marcus snapped, though his bravado was paper thin. Let them talk. It'll blow over. Will it? She turned the phone toward him, showing the comments. People are calling us horrible things. They're on her side. They think we attacked a pregnant woman for no reason. Because that's exactly what you did, Marcus shot back. I told you to leave her alone. I told you confronting her would only make things worse. Me? The ex stood up, her voice rising. You're the one who pushed her. You're the one who made this physical. I just told her to back off. You called her names. You got in her face. You started this whole thing. They argued back and forth, blame flowing freely, while the video continued to spread across the internet, viewed and shared by thousands of strangers who formed opinions and passed judgment without knowing any of them. Finally, the ex threw her phone down on the couch. What are we going to do? He said he knows everything about you. He said lawyers would come after you. Can he really do all that? Marcus wanted to say no, wanted to dismiss the threats as empty posturing. But the way that man had rattled off his personal information, the authority in his voice, the resources he clearly had at his disposal, it all pointed to someone who could absolutely follow through. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe, probably. Well, we need a plan. We can't just sit here and wait for him to ruin our lives. What kind of plan? Marcus demanded. You saw what happened tonight. He's connected. He's powerful. He found out where I live, where I work, where my family is, all in minutes. What exactly are we supposed to do against someone like that? The ex had no answer. She sank back onto the couch, her earlier confidence completely shattered. I thought you said she was nobody. You said she was just some girl you dated for a few months. That's what I thought she was, Marcus replied. How was I supposed to know she'd marry some Korean boss? She was working retail when I knew her. She lived in a studio apartment. There was nothing about her that suggested any of this. Well, clearly things changed. They fell into sullen silence, each consumed by their own fears and regrets. The ex picked up her phone again, scrolling through more comments, watching the view count climb higher and higher. What if we apologize? She suggested finally. What if we reach out to her, tell her we're sorry, ask her to drop whatever legal stuff he's planning? Marcus considered this. After tonight? After we made fools of ourselves in front of everyone? You think she'll accept an apology now? It's worth trying, unless you have a better idea. He didn't. The reality of his situation was sinking in. Child support payments he couldn't afford, legal fees, his mother finding out about all of this, his sister being dragged into his mess. All because he'd been too proud and too angry to handle one conversation with dignity. This is a nightmare, he muttered. This is what happens when you abandon a pregnant woman. The ex said bitterly. I told you months ago you should have stepped up. I told you ignoring her wouldn't make the problem go away. Oh, so now you're on her side? I'm on reality's side. That baby is probably yours. You should have dealt with this responsibly from the start. Instead, you pretended it wasn't happening. and now look where we are. Marcus couldn't argue. She was right. He'd known Ifeoma was pregnant. He'd known the baby was probably his. But facing it meant accepting responsibility, meant changing his life, meant growing up in ways he wasn't ready for. So he'd run. He'd denied. He'd hoped it would all just disappear. And then tonight, when Ifeoma had approached them one more time, desperate and alone, he'd responded with anger instead of compassion. He'd let his new girlfriend dictate his response. He'd chosen his ego over his child. Now he was going to pay for it. Morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, pulling Ifeoma from a deep, dreamless sleep. For a moment, she was disoriented, forgetting where she was. Then the events of the previous night came rushing back. She sat up slowly, her hand automatically moving to her belly, feeling the baby's reassuring movement beneath her palm. The apartment was quiet. She found a note on the nightstand in her husband's precise handwriting. Had to handle some business matters. Back by noon. Rest and eat breakfast. Mrs. Chen will prepare whatever you want. Hello, fellas and friends. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe, and share it. It really helps us grow and bring you more stories like this. Mrs. Chen was the housekeeper who came 3 times a week. Ifeoma still wasn't entirely comfortable with having help, but her husband had insisted, especially as her pregnancy progressed. She made her way to the kitchen, finding a simple breakfast already laid out on the counter. Fresh fruit, yogurt, whole grain toast, orange juice. Someone had anticipated her needs without her having to ask, the way they always did in this new life of hers. Her phone sat on the counter where she'd left it charging overnight. She picked it up reluctantly, knowing she needed to check, but dreading what she might find. The video from last night had exploded beyond anything she could have imagined. Millions of views across multiple platforms. News outlets were picking it up, running stories with headlines like "Pregnant Woman Defended by Mystery Husband" and "Viral Confrontation Sparks Debate on Social Media." Most of the coverage was sympathetic to her, painting Marcus and his girlfriend as villains, but the sheer attention made her uncomfortable. Her face was everywhere now, recognized, commented on, dissected by complete strangers who knew nothing about her real story. There were also messages, dozens of them. Old friends from Nigeria reaching out, asking if she was okay, offering support. Family members she hadn't spoken to in months, suddenly concerned and wanting details. Cousins she barely knew, sending prayers and encouragement. And most surprisingly, several messages from other women, complete strangers, sharing their own stories of being abandoned while pregnant, thanking her for standing up for herself, calling her brave and an inspiration. She hadn't felt brave last night. She'd felt scared and humiliated and desperately alone. But her husband had changed that narrative completely, had transformed her moment of weakness into something else entirely. A text came through from him. "How are you feeling this morning? Any discomfort?" She typed back, "Sore, but okay." The video is absolutely everywhere. Millions of people have seen it. I know. Try not to focus on it. The lawyers are already handling any fallout. Several news outlets want interviews. I'm declining them all on your behalf unless you specifically want to speak publicly. "No interviews," she replied quickly. "I just want this to go away and for life to go back to normal." It will. Give it a few days. These things have a short life cycle online. Something else will capture everyone's attention soon enough. She wanted to believe him, but the sheer scope of the attention was overwhelming. She was about to put the phone down when another message came through, this one from an unknown number. "You think you won last night, but you're going to regret this. You have no idea what you've started." Ifeoma's blood ran cold. Her hands trembled as she screenshot the message and forwarded it to her husband immediately. His response was instant. "Don't reply. Don't engage at all. I'm handling it right now. Security is being increased at the building. You're completely safe." But was she? The message proved that someone, probably Marcus or his girlfriend, wasn't willing to let this go quietly. They were angry, feeling cornered and desperate, and people did unpredictable things when they felt that way. 15 minutes later, the apartment door opened and her husband entered, his face tight with controlled anger. 2 men in suits followed him inside, professional and alert. "Show me the message," he said without preamble. She handed him her phone with shaking hands. He read it twice, his jaw clenching tighter each time. They're making this exponentially worse for themselves. Every threat, every action, it all builds the case against them. What case? Ifeoma asked nervously. The harassment case my lawyers are preparing alongside the child support filing. The restraining order we're going to request. This message is direct evidence of continued threatening behavior. He gestured to the two men. This is Mr. Park and Mr. Kim. They'll be providing personal security for you starting immediately. Security? Is that really necessary? Yes, he said firmly. These people have already demonstrated they're willing to act impulsively and aggressively. I'm not taking any chances with your safety or the baby's. Maybe I should just drop it, Ifeoma said quietly, fear creeping into her voice. Maybe if I don't pursue the child support, they'll leave us alone and this will all stop. Absolutely not. His tone was harder now, more commanding. You have every right to support for your child. More importantly, backing down now tells them that threats work, that they can intimidate you into silence. That's not a precedent we can ever set. But what if they actually do something? What if this escalates beyond just threatening messages? He sat beside her, taking her hands in his and speaking more gently. Then they'll face serious legal consequences. Criminal charges. I've already forwarded the threat to the police and to my legal team. Everything is documented. Everything is officially on record. They're digging their own grave deeper with every move they make. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I know you are, but fear is exactly what they want. They want you to feel unsafe, to question whether pursuing this is worth it. Don't give them that power over you. He paused, considering something. I think you should talk to someone, see a professional counselor about what you're feeling. This has been genuinely traumatic, and processing it with help could make a real difference. I don't need therapy or counseling. Everyone benefits from professional support, he replied gently. Especially after what you went through. There's no shame in it whatsoever. I see someone myself, have for years. It helps me process the stress of my work, helps me make better decisions under pressure. This genuinely surprised her. You see a therapist? Really? Every week without fail. How do you think I stay so calm when everyone around me is panicking and losing control? He smiled slightly. It's not natural talent or genetics. It's years of learning how to manage stress and emotion constructively. Ifeoma considered this new information. Okay, I'll think about it seriously. Good, that's all I ask. He stood, his business demeanor returning. Now, I need you to do something for me. Pack a bag with clothes for a few days. What? Why? Where are we going? My family has a house in the mountains about 3 hours north of here. Private property, very secure, extremely peaceful. I think we could both use some distance from the city while the lawyers handle things and the media attention dies down naturally. I can't just leave right now, Ifeoma protested. I have work scheduled. I have a shift tomorrow. Call in sick. Take personal time. Use family emergency leave. Your manager will understand completely, especially if they've seen the video. He was right about that. Her manager at the boutique where she worked had already texted early this morning, telling her to take all the time she needed and not to worry about her job. What about your work, your business meetings and obligations? I can work from absolutely anywhere. That's the advantage of building my own business the way I have. The world bends to my schedule, not the other way around. 2 hours later, they were in a different vehicle, a sturdy black SUV instead of the Mercedes, heading north out of Atlanta. Mr. Park drove while Mr. Kim sat in the front passenger seat, both men quiet and professional. The city gave way to suburbs, then to rolling hills dotted with trees, showing the first beautiful hints of autumn color. Ifeoma watched the landscape change through the tinted window, feeling the tension slowly ease from her shoulders with each mile they put between themselves and the city. Her husband sat beside her, working on his laptop, occasionally glancing over to make sure she was comfortable. Tell me about your family, she said eventually, breaking the comfortable silence. The ones back in Korea. What are they really like? He was quiet for a moment, saving his work and closing the laptop, choosing his words carefully. Traditional in many ways, wealthy, obviously, very concerned with appearances and family legacy, My father built a substantial business empire over 40 years, and my older brother runs most of it now. I was supposed to join them, take my predetermined place in the family company, but I wanted something different for my life. So you came to America instead? I came to America for university, for my education. I was supposed to return after graduation and begin working in the family business, but I fell in love with this country, with the freedom and opportunity it offered. I started my own import export business here, connecting Korean manufacturers with American distributors. It grew faster than anyone, including me, expected. Your family must be proud of your success. He laughed, but there was no real humor in it. Proud of my financial success, deeply frustrated by my independence and refusal to follow their plan. They want control, want to dictate how I live, who I marry, how I run my business, where I spend my time. Moving here permanently gave me distance, gave me the space to make my own choices without constant pressure, including marrying me, especially marrying you. They wanted me to marry someone they personally chose, one who would elevate the family's social standing in Seoul's elite circles. Instead, I married someone I chose myself, someone who needed me as much as I needed genuine companionship. It was perhaps my ultimate act of rebellion against their expectations. Do they know about the baby? About my situation? They know you're pregnant. They don't know all the details, and frankly, they don't need to know. As far as they're concerned, I'm married and about to become a father. That satisfies their primary concerns about continuing the family line. But they'll find out eventually, Ifeoma pointed out logically. They'll do the math, realize the timeline doesn't match up with our marriage. By then, the baby will be here and none of it will matter. They can disapprove all they want from 6,000 miles away. It won't change a single thing about our life here. The absolute conviction in his voice reassured her deeply. He'd clearly thought through all the angles, anticipated every possible complication, and decided to move forward anyway. That kind of commitment was rare, especially for someone he'd only known for a few months before proposing. The mountain house appeared as they rounded a curve in the tree-lined road, and Ifeoma gasped audibly. It was a stunning modern structure of natural wood and floor-to-ceiling glass, built into the hillside like it had grown there naturally. Solar panels lined the roof, and the windows offered breathtaking views of the forested valley stretching out below. "This is yours?" Ifeoma asked in genuine awe. "My family's, technically, but I'm the only one who ever uses it anymore. My brother prefers the beach house in California, and my parents only come to America once or twice a year for business." He gestured as Mr. Park pulled into the private garage. "Come on, I think you'll really like it here." The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. Clean architectural lines, carefully chosen furniture that looked both comfortable and expensive, artwork that Ifeoma assumed were pieces by famous Korean artists whose names she didn't know. But despite all the obvious luxury, it felt warm and genuinely lived in a way their Atlanta apartment somehow didn't. "The master bedroom has the best view in the entire house," her husband said, leading her up the wooden staircase. "You'll be able to watch the sunrise over the mountains from bed every morning." The bedroom took her breath away. It was dominated by a massive bed with crisp white linens, but the real focus was the wall of windows that seemed to bring the forest and mountains directly inside. She could see for miles, nothing but trees and sky and natural beauty. "Thank you," she said quietly, emotion catching in her throat. "For all of this, for protecting me last night, for bringing me here, for caring when you absolutely didn't have to." He came to stand beside her at the windows, not touching but close enough that she could feel his warmth and solid presence. "You don't need to keep thanking me for basic decency. This is what real partners do. They protect each other, support each other, build something together that's stronger than either of them could ever be alone." Is that what we are? True partners? I'd like to think so. Maybe not in the traditional romantic sense yet, but we're building toward it steadily. Every day, every choice we make, every moment like this one, it's all foundation for something lasting and meaningful. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching clouds drift lazily across the valley far below. And for the first time since learning she was pregnant 6 months ago, Ephioma felt genuinely hopeful about what the future might hold. Back in Atlanta, Marcus's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Against his better judgment and his girlfriend's advice, he answered. Mr. Henderson? The voice was professional, female, and coldly efficient. This is Sandra Kim from Patterson and Associates law firm. I'm calling on behalf of my client, Ephioma Okafor, regarding child support obligations and medical expenses for the baby she's currently carrying. Marcus felt his stomach drop sickeningly. Look, I don't know what she told you people, but, sir, the lawyer interrupted with practiced smoothness, I'm not interested in your denials or creative explanations at this time. I'm calling as a professional courtesy to inform you that we'll be filing official papers within the week requesting a court-ordered paternity test, and, pending the results of that test, monthly child support payments and full reimbursement of all medical costs incurred. You'll receive official notification through certified mail shortly. You can't just demand a paternity test, Marcus protested weakly. Actually, we absolutely can, and the court will almost certainly grant it given the specific circumstances and the video evidence of your interaction with my client. I've personally reviewed the footage of your confrontation last night. Your words and actions strongly suggest prior knowledge of an existing relationship and awareness of the pregnancy. A judge will find that more than sufficient grounds to order testing. Marcus's mouth went dry. This is harassment. No, Mr. Henderson, this is the legal system working exactly as designed. My client came to you privately, seeking reasonable cooperation and support. You responded with public humiliation and physical aggression. Now we'll handle this through official channels. You had your chance to do this quietly and respectfully. You made your choice quite clear. The lawyer's tone never wavered, never became emotional, which somehow made it worse. I want my own lawyer, Marcus managed. That's absolutely your right, and I'd strongly encourage it. Make sure they're prepared for family court proceedings beginning next month. Good day, Mr. Henderson. The line went dead. Marcus stood frozen in his living room, phone still pressed to his ear, as the full weight of his situation crashed down on him. Marcus stared at his phone for a full minute after the lawyer hung up, his mind racing through possibilities and consequences. The ex emerged from the bedroom, her face pale and anxious. Who was that? She asked, though the look on his face already told her everything she needed to know. A lawyer. His lawyer. Her lawyer, I mean. Marcus corrected himself, running his hand over his face. They're filing for paternity testing and child support. It's really happening. The ex sank onto the couch, her earlier bravado from the previous night completely gone. How much do you think they'll make you pay? I have no idea. Hundreds a month? Maybe more? Marcus's voice rose with panic. I'm barely making ends meet as it is. I've got car payments, rent, credit cards. I can't afford a baby on top of all that. You should have thought about that before, the ex said bitterly, then caught herself. I'm sorry. That wasn't helpful. No, you're right. I should have thought about a lot of things differently. Marcus collapsed beside her, the weight of his mistakes pressing down on him. I should have been responsible from the start. I should have talked to her properly instead of running away. I definitely shouldn't have pushed her last night. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was his mother calling. Marcus closed his eyes, debating whether to answer. She'd definitely seen the video by now. Half of Atlanta had seen it. He answered, Hi, Mom. Marcus Anthony Henderson. His mother's voice was tight with disappointment and anger. I just watched a video of you pushing a pregnant woman in the street. Please tell me that's not you. Please tell me I raised you better than that. Mom, it's complicated. She was complicated. There's nothing complicated about putting your hands on a pregnant woman, Marcus. Nothing. His mother's voice cracked slightly. Is that your baby she's carrying? Marcus was silent. Marcus, answer me. Is that your child? Probably, he admitted quietly. Yes, most likely yes. He heard his mother take a shaky breath on the other end. And you've been denying it? Running from it? What is wrong with you? I wasn't ready, Mom. I'm still not ready. I don't have the money or the stability or anything a kid needs. You think any of us are ever truly ready? His mother shot back. You think I felt prepared when I got pregnant with you at 23? Your father left before you were even born, Marcus. I raised you alone, working 2 jobs, struggling every single day. but I never once pushed away my responsibility. I never once pretended you didn't exist. The comparison hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd always known his father had abandoned them, had grown up angry about it, had promised himself he'd be different. And here he was, repeating the exact same pattern. I'm sorry, Mom. Sorry isn't enough. That girl, that woman you pushed, she's somebody's daughter. She's alone and pregnant and scared, just like I was. And instead of stepping up like a man, you treated her like garbage in front of the whole world. Her husband has money, Marcus said defensively. She's not alone anymore. She married some rich Korean guy. She'll be fine. So that makes it okay? That makes you less responsible for your own child? His mother's voice was sharp with disappointment. I didn't raise you to think like that. I didn't work myself to exhaustion so you could grow up to be the kind of man who abandons his responsibilities. Marcus felt tears burning behind his eyes. What am I supposed to do now? You're supposed to grow up. You're supposed to get a lawyer, take the paternity test, and if that baby is yours, you pay support like you're legally and morally obligated to do. You be a father, even if you can't be a partner to her. I can't afford it, Mom. I really can't. Then you get a second job. You cut expenses. You figure it out the way millions of parents have figured it out before you. That's what adults do, Marcus. They handle their responsibilities, even when it's hard. After his mother hung up, Marcus sat in silence, the ex watching him nervously from the other end of the couch. She's right, he finally said. About all of it. I've been acting like a child, running from this, hoping it would just disappear. So what are you going to do? I'm going to take the test. I'm going to accept the results. And if the baby's mine, I'm going to pay what the court says I owe. Marcus looked at his girlfriend seriously. This is going to change everything for us. For me. I understand if you don't want to deal with all this. The ex was quiet for a long moment, processing. I was awful to her yesterday, she admitted. I was jealous and insecure, and I took it out on a pregnant woman who was just trying to do the right thing for her baby. We both were awful. I need to apologize, like really apologize, not the forced one from last night. She pulled out her phone. I'm going to try to find a way to contact her. I don't think that's a good idea right now. Her husband made it pretty clear he doesn't want us anywhere near her. Then I'll send a message through the lawyer, or write a letter, something. The ex looked at Marcus. I can't move forward knowing I treated someone that badly. It's eating me up inside. Marcus understood that feeling. The guilt had been growing since the moment his hand made contact with Ifeoma's shoulder, pushing her back. The image of her stumbling, her hand going protectively to her belly, the fear in her eyes, it played on repeat in his mind. Meanwhile, up in the mountains, Ifeoma was experiencing something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. The house was incredibly quiet. No city sounds, no traffic, just birds and wind through the trees. Her husband had given her space, setting up his office in a downstairs room to make business calls while she explored the house and settled into the rhythm of this new temporary sanctuary. She found herself in a sunroom off the kitchen, surrounded by windows on 3 sides overlooking the valley. Someone had left books on the shelves, a comfortable reading chair, soft blankets. She settled in with a cup of herbal tea and finally allowed herself to really process everything that had happened. The confrontation kept replaying in her mind, but not the humiliation. That part was fading. Instead, she kept coming back to the moment her husband appeared, the absolute authority in his voice, the way the crowd had instinctively responded to his presence, the careful way he'd touched her face, checking for injury, his business coldness melting away into genuine concern. She'd married him, thinking it was purely practical. He needed to satisfy his family's marriage expectations. She needed financial security and protection as a pregnant immigrant with limited options. They'd been honest about the arrangement from their very first conversation. But somewhere along the way, something had shifted. The way he remembered small details she'd mentioned in passing. The way he made sure she had everything she needed before she even realized she needed it. The fierce protectiveness he'd displayed last night that went far beyond contractual obligation. She was falling for him. Actually falling for her own husband. It felt strange to even think it. Her phone buzzed with a message from her sister back in Nigeria. I saw the video. Are you okay? Who is this man you married? He seems very powerful. Ifeoma smiled and typed back, I'm fine. We're safe. He's a good man who takes care of me. But the baby isn't his? No. But he treats it like it is. He's going to raise the child as his own. There was a long pause before her sister responded. You found a rare man, sister. Don't let him go. Ifeoma looked up to find her husband standing in the doorway of the sunroom, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Sorry to interrupt, he said. I just wanted to check on you. Make sure you're comfortable. I'm very comfortable. This room is beautiful. This whole house is beautiful. He entered the sunroom and sat in the chair across from her. I'm glad you like it. I come here when I need to think, when the city gets too loud and complicated. It must get lonely here by yourself? It did, he admitted. But now I have you. And soon we'll have a baby filling these rooms with noise and chaos. Ifeoma felt her throat tighten with emotion. You keep saying we and our baby like it's really yours. It is really mine, he said firmly. Maybe not biologically, but in every way that actually matters. I'll be there for the birth. I'll be there for the midnight feedings and the first words and the first steps. I'll be the one teaching this child to walk and read and ride a bike. Biology is just genetics. Fatherhood is about showing up every single day and choosing to love. What if Marcus takes the paternity test and it's positive? What if he decides he wants to be involved? Her husband's expression hardened slightly. Then we'll deal with that through the courts. He'll have visitation rights if he pursues them, and he'll pay his child support. But this baby will live here, with us, in a stable and loving home. He gave up his chance to be a primary parent when he walked away. He might change. People can change. Maybe. But change takes time and consistent effort. This baby will be here in 3 months. That's not enough time for him to prove he's become someone reliable and trustworthy. Ifeoma knew he was right, but part of her still held on to a small hope that Marcus would surprise everyone and step up. Not because she wanted him back. That ship had sailed, but because every child deserved a father who actually wanted them. Can I ask you something personal? She ventured. Of course, anything. Why haven't you ever had children before? You're successful, established, you'd make a wonderful father. Why wait until now with someone else's baby? He was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the mountains. I was focused on building my business for so many years. Relationships were casual, temporary. I told myself I'd settle down eventually, but eventually kept getting pushed further into the future. Then I turned 35, and my family started pressuring me intensely about marriage and heirs. So you settled for an arranged marriage with a pregnant stranger? I didn't settle for anything, he corrected gently. I made a choice. When I met you at my cousin's restaurant, when you told me your situation honestly and directly, I saw an opportunity for something real. Not a fairy tale romance, but a genuine partnership built on mutual respect and shared goals. Ifeoma remembered that night 3 months ago. She'd been waitressing at a Korean restaurant in Midtown, 7 months into her pregnancy and desperate. Her husband had been dining alone, working on his laptop. They'd struck up a conversation when she brought his check. She'd been honest about her situation, expecting judgment. Instead, he'd asked questions, really listened, and 3 days later, he'd proposed a solution: marriage. I thought you were crazy, she admitted, or that it was some kind of elaborate scheme. I know, you made that very clear. He smiled at the memory, but you were desperate enough to consider it anyway. I was. I am grateful, you know, even if I don't say it enough. You're saying it too much, actually. This isn't charity, Ifeoma. I'm getting something valuable out of this arrangement, too. Companionship, partnership, the chance to build a real family on my own terms instead of my parents' terms. What happens when the baby is born? Ifeoma asked quietly. What if you realize you made a mistake? What if it's harder than you thought? Then we'll figure it out together, the way all new parents do. We'll be exhausted and confused and probably argue about the right way to do things. But we'll manage, because that's what families do. The certainty in his voice made her want to believe him completely. That evening, they ate dinner together on the deck overlooking the valley as the sun set in brilliant orange and pink. Mr. Park and Mr. Kim ate separately inside, giving them privacy while remaining close enough to respond to any threat. This feels like a vacation, Ifeoma said, savoring the grilled fish and vegetables her husband had somehow prepared while she napped. Like we're normal people taking a normal trip. We are normal people, he replied, just with slightly more complicated circumstances than most. Normal people don't have bodyguards. Normal people in my line of work do. She was quiet for a moment. Your line of work. We've never really talked in detail about what exactly you do. Import and export, you've said, but that's vague. He set down his fork, choosing his words carefully. I connect manufacturers in Korea with distributors and retailers in America. Electronics, automotive parts, textiles, specialty foods. Everything legal and above board, but it requires maintaining relationships with people on both sides who can be demanding and occasionally difficult. But last night, the way you handled everything, the resources you have, that's more than just business connections. You're right. Some of my clients and associates operate in gray areas. I don't, but knowing people who do gives me access to information and influence that regular business people don't have. I've been very careful to keep my own operations completely legal, but I can't control what the people I know choose to do. So when people call you a mafia boss, it's an exaggeration based on stereotypes about Korean businessmen with connections. I'm not running criminal operations. I'm just very good at getting things done and protecting what's mine. Ifeoma absorbed this. And I'm yours now? You're my wife. Yes, and I protect what's mine absolutely and without compromise. The possessiveness should have bothered her, but somehow it didn't. After months of feeling abandoned and alone, having someone claim her so completely felt like safety instead of control. 3 days passed in the mountain house like a dream. Ifeoma found herself relaxing in ways she hadn't since before she discovered she was pregnant. Her husband worked during the mornings, taking calls and video conferences from his downstairs office, while she read, napped, and explored the beautiful property. In the afternoons, they'd walk together along the private trails that wound through the forest. He'd tell her stories about growing up in Seoul, about his family's expectations, and his eventual rebellion. She'd share memories of Lagos, of her mother's cooking, of the dreams that had brought her to America in the first place. They were learning each other slowly, carefully, building the foundation of something real. On the fourth morning, her husband received a call that changed his expression from relaxed to alert in seconds. He spoke rapidly in Korean, his tone sharp and demanding. When he ended the call, he found Ifeoma in the sunroom. "We need to talk about something," he said, sitting across from her. Her heart jumped. "What happened? Is it Marcus? Did he do something?" "Not exactly. My lawyers received communication from his attorney this morning. Marcus is willing to take the paternity test without a court order. He's also willing to establish a child support agreement through mediation rather than going to court." Ifeoma blinked in surprise. "Really? That doesn't sound like the Marcus from the other night." People can surprise you when they're facing real consequences. His lawyer indicated he's had time to think about his actions and wants to handle this responsibly going forward. "Do you believe that?" Her husband shrugged. "I believe he's motivated by self-interest. Going to court would be public, expensive, and embarrassing. Mediation is private and typically results in lower support amounts. He's making the smart choice for himself. But it's still better than him fighting it, right? Much better. If you're comfortable with it, we can arrange the paternity test for next week. Once we have results, we'll negotiate support terms through our lawyers. You won't have to see him or speak to him at all if you don't want to." "I don't want to," Ifeoma confirmed. "I have nothing to say to him anymore." "Then it's settled. My lawyers will handle everything." He paused. "There's something else. The girlfriend, the woman from the other night, she's been trying to contact you." "What? How?" "She sent several messages through my lawyer's office, asking for permission to apologize directly. She claims she's deeply ashamed of her behavior and wants to make amends." Ifeoma's first instinct was to refuse. The memory of that woman's cruel words, her mocking tone, the way she'd encouraged Marcus's aggression, it all still stung sharply. "What do you think I should do?" she asked. "That's entirely your choice. I can have my lawyers tell her to stop contacting us, or we can arrange a supervised meeting if you want to hear what she has to say. There's no pressure either way. Ifeoma thought about it carefully. Part of her wanted to simply move forward and forget both of them existed. But another part, the part that her mother had raised to believe in forgiveness and second chances, was curious about what the woman wanted to say. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. She can wait. Her husband stood and kissed the top of her head gently, a gesture of affection that was becoming more natural between them. I need to make some calls. Rest. You look tired. She was tired. The baby had been particularly active the past few nights, keeping her awake with constant movement. She settled into the comfortable chair and dozed off, the warm sunlight and peaceful quiet pulling her into sleep. She dreamed of the baby. In her dream, she was holding a tiny infant with her dark skin and Marcus's features, but when the baby opened its eyes, they were shaped like her husband's. The baby smiled up at her and said in a clear voice, "I chose you both." When she woke an hour later, she knew what she wanted to do. She found her husband in his office. "I want to meet with her, the girlfriend, but I want you there with me." He looked up from his computer, studying her face. "Are you sure? You don't owe her anything." "I know, but I need to do this for myself. I need to hear what she has to say, and I need her to see that I'm not broken or defeated. I'm strong and protected and building a good life." Pride flickered across his features. "Okay, I'll arrange it. We'll do it somewhere neutral and public. Dinner at a nice restaurant. My security will be present but discreet." "When?" "Tomorrow night, if you're ready. We'll drive back to Atlanta in the afternoon." The next evening, Ifeoma found herself sitting in an upscale restaurant in Buckhead, her husband beside her, watching the entrance nervously. She dressed carefully, wearing a flowing dress that accommodated her belly while still making her feel beautiful. Her husband had insisted she visit a salon that afternoon, and her hair was styled elegantly, her nails freshly done. "You look stunning," he'd told her before they left the house. "Remember that. Remember who you are and what you're worth." The ex arrived exactly on time, alone, looking smaller and more uncertain than she had on the street. She approached their table hesitantly, her eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me," she said quietly. "I know I don't deserve your time or your attention." Afeoma gestured to the empty chair across from them. "Sit." The woman sat, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. Up close, without the anger and aggression, she looked young and scared. "I'm not going to waste your time with excuses," the ex began. "What I did was wrong, completely, inexcusably wrong. I was jealous and insecure, and I took it out on you in the cruelest way possible. I'm so sorry." Ifeoma waited, letting the silence stretch. "I've watched that video maybe 100 times since that night," the ex continued, her voice shaking. "Every time I see myself pushing you, calling you names, I feel sick. That's not who I want to be. That's not who I thought I was." "But it is who you were that night," Ifeoma said quietly. "Words and actions reveal who we really are when we're under pressure." "You're right. And what it revealed is that I'm insecure and cruel when I feel threatened. I saw you as a threat to my relationship with Marcus, and instead of handling it maturely, I attacked you." "Why?" Ifeoma asked. "Why did you see me as such a threat? I wasn't trying to get Marcus back. I just wanted support for my baby. His baby." The ex looked down at her hands. "Because part of me knew you had a legitimate claim on him. You were carrying his child. That's a bond I can never compete with, and instead of dealing with my feelings about that, I tried to eliminate you as a problem." Afeoma's husband had been silent throughout, but now he spoke, his voice cold. "You didn't just try to eliminate a problem. You physically assaulted a pregnant woman. You could have caused her to fall, to lose the baby, to get seriously hurt." "I know." Tears spilled down the ex's cheeks. "I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I'm genuinely, deeply sorry." Ifeoma studied the crying woman across from her. She could choose to hold on to anger and resentment, to make this woman suffer for what she'd done. Part of her wanted exactly that. But another part, the part that was trying to build a new life and move forward, knew that forgiveness wasn't about what the other person deserved. It was about freeing herself from the weight of carrying that anger. I accept your apology, Ifeoma said finally. Not because what you did is okay, and not because we're suddenly friends, but because I'm choosing to let go of what happened and focus on my future. The ex looked up, surprised. Really? Really? But I need you to understand something. If you ever come near me again, if you ever threaten me or my family in any way, the consequences will be severe. This is your one chance. Don't waste it. I won't. I promise. I'm actually breaking up with Marcus. After everything that happened, after seeing how he handled the situation, I realized he's not the person I thought he was either. This surprised Ifeoma. You're leaving him? I already did. I moved out 3 days ago. He's got to figure out his life and his responsibilities without me enabling his immaturity anymore. The ex stood, wiping her eyes. Thank you for hearing me out. I hope you have a beautiful, healthy baby. I hope you build an amazing life with your husband. You deserve it. After she left, Ifeoma sat quietly, processing what had just happened. How do you feel? Her husband asked gently. Lighter, she admitted, like I just put down something heavy I'd been carrying. Good, that's good. He signaled the waiter. Now let's actually enjoy dinner. You've earned it. They ate slowly, talking about baby names and nursery colors, about practical things that made the future feel real and approaching. Ifeoma found herself laughing at her husband's terrible suggestions for names, teasing him about his complete lack of design sense. We should hire a professional decorator, he said finally, admitting defeat. Or I could do it myself. I worked in interior design back in Lagos before I came here. You did? You never mentioned that. You never asked about my career aspirations. You only knew me as a pregnant waitress. He looked chagrined. You're right. Tell me, what did you want to do with your life before everything got complicated? So she told him about her dreams of opening her own design firm, about the apprenticeship she'd done with a prestigious decorator in Lagos, about the portfolio she'd built before financial necessity had forced her to take service jobs instead. Why didn't you pursue it here? He asked. Connections, credentials, money. Take your pick. I came to America with big dreams, but no real path to achieve them. I was going to save money, take some courses, build an American portfolio. Then I got pregnant, and everything shifted to just surviving. Her husband was quiet for a moment, then pulled out his phone and made a quick note. What if we changed that? What if you had the resources to pursue your actual career? What do you mean? I mean, I have connections in the luxury real estate market, people who need designers for high-end properties. What if I introduced you, helped you build a client base here? You could start small, maybe 1 or 2 projects while the baby is young, then expand as you're ready. Ifeoma felt her breath catch. Are you serious? Completely. You're talented and educated. The only thing holding you back is access and opportunity. I can provide both. Why would you do that for me? He reached across the table and took her hand. Because you're my wife. Because I want you to be happy and fulfilled, not just financially secure. Because this baby deserves to see both parents pursuing their passions and building meaningful careers. Tears filled Ifeoma's eyes, but these were different tears. Happy tears, hopeful tears. Thank you, she whispered, for everything, for seeing me as more than just a problem to solve. You were never a problem, you were an opportunity. The best decision I ever made. They finished dinner in warm silence, hands clasped across the table, both thinking about the future they were building together. The drive home was quiet and comfortable. When they reached the penthouse, Ifeoma was exhausted but content. Her husband helped her out of the car, his hand steady on her elbow as they rode the elevator up. Inside the apartment, he turned to her with an expression she'd never seen before. Vulnerable, uncertain. Can I ask you something? He said quietly. Of course. Are you happy? In this marriage, in this life we're building, are you genuinely happy? Ifeoma took his hand and placed it on her belly, where the baby was doing its nightly acrobatics. I'm happier than I ever expected to be. This wasn't the life I planned, but it's becoming the life I want. He smiled, real and unguarded. Good. That's all I needed to know. That night, as Ifeoma lay in bed waiting for sleep, she reflected on how dramatically her life had changed in just a few short months. She'd gone from alone and terrified to protected and hopeful, from abandoned to cherished, from surviving to actually living. Her phone buzzed with a final message from her husband, who was working late in his office. Sweet dreams. Tomorrow we start planning the nursery. Your way, not mine. She smiled and typed back, "Thank you for choosing me." His response came immediately, "Thank you for letting me." Across the city, Marcus sat alone in his apartment, paperwork spread across his coffee table. Paternity test authorization forms, child support worksheets, mediation scheduling documents. The reality of impending fatherhood spread out in black and white. His mother's words echoed in his mind, "You be a father, even if you can't be a partner to her." He picked up a pen and began filling out forms, taking the first real steps toward responsibility he should have taken months ago. It wouldn't fix what he'd done. It wouldn't erase the viral video or repair his reputation. But it was a start, a genuine start at becoming the kind of man he should have been all along, the kind of man a child could be proud to call father. Meanwhile, in the penthouse overlooking Atlanta, Ifeoma finally drifted off to sleep with her hand resting on her belly, dreaming of nursery colors and baby laughter and a future that suddenly seemed bright with possibility. Her husband worked for another hour before finally closing his laptop and checking on her one last time. She was sleeping peacefully, her face relaxed in a way it rarely was during waking hours. He pulled the blanket up gently over her shoulders and whispered, "I'll protect you both, always. That's my promise." Then he returned to his office to make plans. Plans for the nursery, plans for introducing Ifeoma to his business contacts in the design world, plans for the future they were building together, one careful choice at a time. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and somewhere in those millions of lights, people were watching the viral video, sharing it, commenting on it. But inside the penthouse, none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was the family being built, the promises being kept, the love growing slowly but surely between two people who had started as strangers with an arrangement and were becoming something much more profound. Partners, protectors, parents. A real family built not on biology or romance, but on choice, commitment, and the daily decision to show up for each other no matter what challenges came their way. And as the night deepened over Atlanta, that family slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories like this, and comment below telling us what you thought about Ifeoma and her husband's journey. Did Marcus do enough to redeem himself? Should Ifeoma have forgiven the ex? Let us know your thoughts. Your engagement helps us bring you more incredible content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next upload. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.